Dzień dobry, assalamu alaikum, ciao, konnichiwa, bonjour, hola, good morning, namaste. How are you today? This is Ken at 10. Welcome. Thanks for joining us yet again. If you've not been here before, then we go live every day at 10 o'clock because I'm Ken and it's 10 and we're broadcasting live to you from Southwest 16 Norbury, which is between Streatham and Croydon. We're James Alexander Estate Agents. We sell and let property and talk about all things property as well. How are you? Weather here in Norbury has been, this morning was absolutely beautiful. Coming into the office about 7:30 and literally the sun was just peeking over the horizon. The sky was blue. Felt like a really beautiful spring morning, and it continues today. It's still blue skies out there, a little bit chilly, about 12 degrees, but pretty nice. So I hope you're well. Welcome. Let's talk about what's going on locally, first of all. In terms of the market, lots of valuations coming in, which is good. Lots of overvaluations going on, which is bad. There are agents out there. There's still a lack of stock. And what this can mean is some agents will go in with very high valuations in order to try and dupe people into putting their properties on the market for prices which are unachievable, with the hope that they'll then be able to reduce the price slowly and grind it down until it reaches a level where it will sell. This is unscrupulous, but it goes on all the time. It's very frustrating. And, anybody that knows us knows that if we're nothing else, we're scrupulously honest and straightforward in that way. And we have our integrity to think about when we give you a valuation. So if you want an accurate valuation, you might not necessarily like it. You might love it, but it will be honest. That's one thing we always try and do. We work really hard at that. So lots of valuations coming on and a few agents valuing literally at as much as 100,000 more than is realistic for the current market in many cases. So accurate valuation is the key to getting the best sale price. It may sound strange, but if you ask more than your home is worth substantially, then it's been proven time and time again that what happens generally is nothing, i.e. you don't get any viewings, or the viewings that you do get find that your house doesn't compare with others in that price range. And if that's the case, they won't offer. And if they don't offer, you can't sell. This goes on for a period of time. And then your house is the one that everybody's seen and that's been hanging around for a while. And then you bring the price down. And when you bring the price down, the problem is that everybody knows it's that one that's been hanging around for a while. Had it been pitched at the right price in the first place, then you would have hit the sweet spot. People would have been saying that's the one I want to see because it's a hot price, and then before you know it, you've got overbids. So we do a lot of over valuation now. Sometimes we ask for offers over rather than hitting, because it's not an exact science either. I always say there's a 5% variance. I've been in this area now for just coming up for 30 years this year. And during that time, what happens is that the local surveyors valuing properties via mortgages get to know you and end up calling you first ahead of the competition. So I probably get more calls from surveyors than any other agent locally on a daily basis. And if we get a valuation come in from a surveyor and he's saying, what's your opinion on this road, this house, this style? Quite often, if we can get within 5% of each other's prices, we both agree that that is close enough that actually that's a reasonably accurate valuation. In other words, no one can tell you exactly within 5%. But when you're talking about large percentages, obviously that's a different thing. But 5% is quite a lot. If you think the average house in this area is 500,000, 500,000, we're talking about the difference of variance of 25,000, which is a huge amount of money. And certainly, so valuation, key selling consideration is getting that valuation right. We look at three things. We always say there are three things that are important when you're selling: price, promotion, presentation. We've talked about those in detail on previous videos, but price is also critical. And also it's critical that you have the right agent handling it, because if you do go for the cheap option and you just list it with one of the DIY portals, then the problem with that is that you'll be handling the negotiation, you'll be handling everything directly. Number one, it's pistols at dawn. And number two, it's harder for you to make buyers compete with each other. A professional agent does that well because it's what we're used to doing, to make sure that you get the very best price and therefore peace of mind that you've got the right money for your house. And that means that, in my view, and certainly prices bear this out, we can squeeze out money that you wouldn't get if you'd gone to one of the direct portal listers generally. And that's money that should be in your pocket. And yes, our fees will be slightly higher than those, but in the end, the price that you achieve will be much higher. And with your biggest asset, why would you entrust it to the cheapest possible solution? So I'd say be careful, beware. It's like we get a lot of time, do you know a cheap surveyor or a cheap solicitor or a cheap estate agent? We say, well, we know good ones and we know cheap ones. Which would you prefer? Few things in the news today. The first thing is about rents. The average rent has now risen, according to Zoopla, to £1,000 per calendar month. That's £62 more than at the start of the pandemic. That's a huge amount of money for young professionals to find. And we're finding in our area that gets you a one-bedroom flat, just about. And some of our best one-bedroom flats will exceed that. That's an incredible amount of money, isn't it, for people to find? And to give you some idea, in order to afford a rent of 1,000 per calendar month, it would require a salary of a minimum of 30,000 to get through most referencing processes. That could be joint, though. It could be 15K each, but a minimum of 30,000. For young people, that can be a real struggle. Obviously, there are guarantors and other options, but it's harder to rent when you don't have the salary coming directly that will make the insurer accept you as a risk, because that's the big thing at the moment. Is a lot of clients want to be sure that they're protected via rent guarantee policies, and these policies have certain criterion, and salary multiple is one of them, together with clean credit. The portal's quarterly rental market shows soaring rents against a backdrop of increased living costs and squeezing households. Again, as usual, sadly, it is the people at the very bottom that seem to be affected worst of all. Zoopla data shows the average rental growth reached a 13-year high, up 8.3% in 2021. This means households who agree new lets are now having to pay an additional average cost of £744 compared to the start of the pandemic. And that is partly due to the supply as well. I mean, the demand is big because, of course, what's happened is London's opened back up again. And because of London opening back up, the exodus away from the cities is turning around, and we're seeing people come back in. And with that come back in, we said it initially when we found that everything was falling off a cliff a little bit. You know what the surprising thing is, though? During the whole of the pandemic, when we looked at the level of defaults we had on rent, it was incredibly low. Really, really low. I mean, less than 0.5%. I think I worked it out as something like 0.2% of the whole of our managed portfolio had arrears, and those that did have mostly recovered those debts. So it's been incredibly resilient during the bad times, and of course during the good times rents tend to push anyway. And I think that's why people like it, because it's such a robust form of investment. On the one hand, you've got the underlying asset, on the other hand, you've got the regular recurring income, and the combination of those two things for a lot of us, together with the fact that we're not building enough houses, buy land, they're not making any more, and the fact that us Englishmen, we love property, our Englishmen's homes are castle and all that, and put all those things together, and it makes the buy-to-let sector of interest to many, many people. But of course, the government have got a difficult knife edge to balance here, because if they push landlords too hard, and they're pushing very hard right now, many of them are sitting on large paper profits and deciding to cash in, especially the way they've taxed individual landlords now under Section 24, where they can't offset the interest payments against the rent. That's a huge problem for many small landlords, and therefore they're selling some of their portfolio. Now let's look at other news. Halifax has accepted the use of MX instead of Ms or Mr. MX. We're not quite sure how you say that, but the idea is that it's gender neutral, and they've now finally accepted that. So I'm not quite sure how I would address them if they had the prefix MX, but perhaps someone can enlighten me on that. The BBC News says rules supposed to protect areas from being swamped by housing multiple occupation are failing. Well, again, this comes down to when rents are so expensive, of course, you're going to get multiple sharers. And we certainly find that. And it's a problem. Some people are illegally renting. If there's 5 or more people in one household, you're a house in multiple occupation, regardless of the number of floors. It used to be 5 or more people over 3 or more stories, but the story rule is gone. You could be in a bungalow. If there's 5 or more of you and there are 2 or more households, you're a house in multiple occupation. And special rules, which actually have the backing of criminal law, mean that if you're renting your property out to 5 or more people and it consists of 2 or more households, you fall into that category. You've got a problem. You really do need to sort that out. Having said that, if it's one family and there's 10 of them, that's okay. You're allowed to do that. And the reason is, it might sound like silly, but actually it does make sense. Common meal times. If they're sharing a common meal time, then it's okay. Apart from that, interior styles that boost the most in your home. Apparently, the mid-century modern homes French bedroom company said that the Scandinavian and mid-century modern are the most popular interior styles. Mid-century averaged, I can't believe this. This is from the Express, so I'll take this with a pinch of salt. Mid-century modern homes, on average, increased the value of a home by 123%. No, they didn't. Sorry, I'm just reading the headlines. Don't shoot the messenger. In fact, don't believe it. I mean, there's no way. A lot of these things are, something. They're just looking for a little soundbite that'll make people read. You can increase your house by 123% by turning it into Scandinavian style property. No, you really can't. Sorry, but there we are. So yeah, we got what we got at the moment. Lots and lots of sales that are on the edge of exchange of contracts, and the final little piece in the jigsaw is not quite there. So we're just kind of working on that a lot today, very hard, and trying to get those last ones, the last little bits over the hurdle. Those little nuances, can't exchange yet because, and we're trying to push those over, and it's very frustrating for many, many clients. So hopefully we can assist with that today as well. Confidence is still quite high. General feeling is good about the market. We're not even in the spring yet. Supply is still relatively low. So that's where we're at the moment. Hope you found that useful, and hope your family and yourself are well. Look after yourselves and your families if you can. We'll be back tomorrow with another Ken at 10. Until then, stay safe and well. Ciao.